welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be sharing all about my study abroad journey, which has finally and officially come to a close last January. For those who are new here, just a quick introduction about myself. I'm Sophie and I decided to go back to school and take a postgraduate degree in the middle of the pandemic. Yes, it was a very crazy decision during a very uncertain time, but now that it's all over, I can say that it's one of the best decisions I've made in my life so far. Moving abroad and leaving a place you called home pretty much your entire life with all your friends and family is definitely a life-changing decision. There are just so many layers to it with an overwhelming number of steps and things to prepare. One video won't be enough to cover all of that, so today's vlog will focus on the IELTS, which may be one of the major requirements you might have to consider if you're looking to study or work abroad. In case you missed it, I already made another video all about my test experience as well as my study and exam tips. I will link it up here in the cards and down below if you want to watch it. That video seemed to help a lot of you guys, that's why I decided to make a part 2. This time, I'll be sharing more about my decision-making process, on why I decided to study abroad, as well as why I chose to take the IELTS. Hopefully, it will also help those of you who are at a crossroad or a similar stage in life. Before we begin, if you're not familiar with the IELTS, it is a standardized English exam which is recognized worldwide to test your level of proficiency and understanding of the language. It is comprised of 4 parts: reading, writing, listening, and speaking. There are other English exams that you might opt to take, but I decided to go for the IELTS for several reasons which I'll later share in the video. So make sure to watch till the end and for a special surprise as well. My entire decision process to move and study abroad can be summarized in 4 steps, which I will go through in detail in this video. First is why I chose to study instead of work abroad. Second is how I chose the country or location. Third is how I chose my program and university. Fourth and last is why I chose to take the IELTS over other English tests. In reality though, this checklist is not as simple as it sounds. Many times I would go back to a previous step or even start all over again. There was even a time where I questioned and wanted to ditch this whole plan altogether. This huge life decision of mine actually took 5 years in the making. I also know of people who delayed this for several years because the timing was not right. Remember, this is not an easy decision that you can just sleep on overnight. You have to sleep on it for so many nights or even not sleep at all. There's this quote I remember saying, "If it were easy, everyone would do it." This decision is not for the faint-hearted, and going through it is even more difficult and challenging. I can say that coming from experience. You have to be willing to go through tough times to make this happen, because real growth comes from a place where you're most uncomfortable. You don't have to follow this checklist down to the T, but instead you can treat it as a starting guide, especially if you don't know where to begin, or even just as a reference for important things you need to consider in coming up with your decision. So here's my story. When I was in high school, I already dreamed of studying abroad. Our school was offering a short-term exchange program to Japan every year, although they would only send a few students who were at the top of my batch. Back then, I was a pretty average student, so I knew I didn't have a chance. I was really jealous of my classmates who experienced this because they lived with a host family, which was really fun and just an authentic experience. They wore really cute Japanese uniforms that you see on anime. I was a big anime fan back then, and they even saw cherry blossoms, which was my ultimate dream when I was a child. So from then on, I promised myself that I was gonna study abroad one day. After graduating college and working for a while, I started researching on different schools abroad. I would attend a lot of university expos at hotels where there are a bunch of schools that you can choose from and know more about. I was very young, overwhelmed, and didn't really know what to do with all the info that I had back then. I felt that I needed to gain more experience to really know what I wanted to study further. I continued working and eventually came to a point where I felt stuck because of the pandemic, which some of you guys might have experienced as well. The whole crisis really made me pause and reflect and just think about my life, especially because I could no longer travel like I used to, which was my form of escape. I think I was going through a semi-quarter life crisis back then. So the idea of studying abroad turned up again because I had a close colleague that quit her job right at the start of the pandemic to pursue her master's abroad. This planted a seed in my mind that I later on revisited. Later that year, I started exploring options because I felt that I outgrew my job and was at the point that I was no longer growing. I decided I wanted to go abroad to either work or study, not just because of my high school dream, but because I felt that this was the best way for me to grow as a person. If I switched jobs or took a course in the Philippines, I would still be in the same comfortable bubble that I was so used to, and living on my own in a totally new environment, excited, challenged, and scared me all at once. I knew it was a drastic change that I needed to go through to become more independent. I tried looking for jobs abroad, but it it was close to impossible because of the pandemic, where travel was not available. Many companies were laying off their people, were not hiring, or were just trying to make ends meet. Studying abroad made the most sense because I was also totally unaware of other industries and the business landscape in general. I felt that I was left behind and needed to update myself, learn new things, and develop my skills to become more competitive and attractive professionally for opportunities here and abroad. Location is the next crucial step in the entire decision. There are many things I had to consider, but the top things that I would suggest you carefully think through are safety, cost of living, weather, and language. Safety is number one because imagine you are alone in a foreign country. This entire process puts you out of your comfort zone, so at least your environment should be relatively safe. Even if a place can't be 100% safe, you can get a general feel of how safe the country is by knowing their crime rate as well as following their local news. You can also check how easily accessible their local embassy is from where you are. This is especially important if you have no immediate friends or family in the area that you are relocating to. I suggest doing some thorough research on the country or specific cities by watching vlogs, talking to people you know who live there, or even visiting the country as a tourist to see if you can imagine yourself living in there. Second consideration is of course the cost. This decision is very expensive, so you have to ensure that you can cover your day-to-day expenses as well as your side travels that you will most likely do when exploring this new place. Weather is another important factor. It won't only affect your closet, but as well as your transportation, expenses, activities, and even your mental health. Places with less daylight exposure can affect your body naturally and lead to seasonal mood swings. Lastly, language is a major factor. There are some countries where English is widely spoken, but you still need to learn their local native language in order to get around. If you're open to learning a new language, then you can consider these places, but I personally wanted to focus on studying my course, so I made sure that I can just get around by communicating in English in the countries that I have selected. In the end, the countries I selected were Singapore and Australia because I've been to these places before as a tourist, which gave me a better feel of living there even just for a short period of time. I highly recommend that you visit a country first if you can because you get first-hand experience. Choosing a place to live is very subjective and personal. No matter how much research you do or number of people you talk to, the best judge is really yourself. Now that you have a list of possible locations, you can now narrow down the universities and program. For some, you can start with this step, especially if you have a dream school, and just choose a particular country based on where they have campuses. I think that's fine too. It really depends on your priorities and how you weigh them out. I decided to go for an MBA degree because of my background. My undergraduate degree in college was business administration, and I've already had prior experience in business when I was young. In deciding the program and school, my top considerations were the cost and the ease of requirements involved in the application and the program. Since I did not want to borrow money from my parents or from the bank in order to fund my studies, I made sure that it was within my budget. I had to ensure that the cost of my application until the end of the program can be funded entirely by my savings. Aside from the financial side to it, I would strongly suggest that you look beyond the school rankings and name when selecting your course in university. Research the professors and study the curriculum to see if they interest you and are actually beneficial to your future career plans. From my experience, that's where you'll really get your money's worth. My MBA program was a tri-city course where I would spend each semester in a different city, namely Singapore, Sydney, and Dubai. Unfortunately, Australia's borders were closed last year even for students, so I was not able to go. But now they are finally open to tourists and students, so that's really great news if you're considering to study in Australia. In order to study or work there, one of the requirements of a student is to take and pass an English proficiency test. Other countries that would require this are the UK and Canada. Depending on the country, they would require a certain band score to consider that you have passed the exam. More than being a test, this is a great way for you to prepare for your life abroad because you would need to know the language in order to communicate and get around in these countries. There are other similar tests like Pearson Test of English, Cambridge, and TOEFL, but I opted for the IELTS because it's very accessible and popular here in the Philippines. I booked my exam with the British Council, which is an IELTS test provider that offered many convenient test locations and formats. When I was in high school, I already knew and heard about the British Council, so I knew that they could be trusted. trusted. They also offered a lot of free study materials and resources even before I booked the exam. Since I planned to self-study, this was the main reason why I decided to take the IELTS against other exams. After I booked my exam with the British Council, I got access to even more free study guides, which really helped me in preparing for the test. Another reason that pushed me to take the IELTS with the British Council is because they had an annual competition called the IELTS Prize. If you take the IELTS with them, you're eligible to join this competition or contest for free. There are 3 winners every year, wherein the first prize winner can win up to £5,000 or around 300,000 pesos, which is a lot. I took a chance and joined last year because I knew it would help me out financially. If you follow me on Instagram and Facebook, you would know that I'm one of the IELTS prize winners last year. I'm really so grateful to represent the country and be amidst other driven individuals. The great thing about the IELTS prize is that they recognize your personal dreams and aspirations, not merely your band score. Looking back, becoming an IELTS prize winner has been another sign that I made the right choice to study abroad even during the pandemic. I hope to inspire you guys to try and apply by taking the first step of taking the IELTS. I know that exams are scary. I was nervous and very anxious too, but the British Council offers a lot of helpful test prep materials that will really give you the confidence to power through and do well. I highly recommend it because it helped me even surpass my band score goal. If you are planning to take the IELTS this year, make sure you use my promo code BCIELTSXSOPHIE when you book your exam to get a bunch of freebies listed here. This is applicable to both IELTS on paper and computer tests scheduled from this May until December 2022. These items will be delivered to you right after your test registration confirmation to help you for your review. After your exam, don't forget to apply for the IELTS prize. If you are planning to pursue overseas study this year, make sure to follow the British Council on Facebook for any announcements on the IELTS prize. If you made it to the end of this video and found it helpful, do give this video a like and subscribe for upcoming IELTS related vlogs. I hope this video serves as a sign or a push for those of you who are thinking of living abroad and finally pursuing your dreams. If there's anything I missed or if you have any more questions, do comment down below and I will try my best to answer them or address them in my next videos. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope to see you guys on my next one. Bye!